Buonasera a tutti. Good evening and welcome to the Italian Radio Hour. Io sono Viviana and I would like to welcome back our regular listeners and also welcome any new listeners. Also be sure to like us on Instagram and Facebook at the Italian Radio Hour and subscribe to our YouTube channel to catch up on any past video interviews. Vorrei dare il benvenuto ai nostri ascoltatori da tutto il mondo. Grazie per essere con noi anche oggi, mentre continuiamo il nostro viaggio per l'Italia e la cultura italiana. So today, actually, we are going to have a little bit of what I would call a home game, because we're going to have a conversation with a very well-known family and business in the Pittsburgh area, so located in the heart of a bustling international shopping neighborhood of the Strip District in Pittsburgh. The Pennsylvania Macaroni Company is one of Pittsburgh's oldest retail establishments and one of the area's best-known Italian specialty stores. It is a popular destination for locals and out-of-town visitors. And today with us, we'll have the pleasure to have a conversation with Bill and his son, Massimo Sunseri, to learn the history of the business and what it means to them to be Italian 124 years after their ancestors came to Italy, to the US from Italy. But first, pubblicità. Parli italiano? Do you want to learn, improve, or master your Italian? Istituto Mondo Italiano can help. Located in the heart of Regent Square, Mondo Italiano offers small group classes and one-on-one private tutoring to help you learn Italian in no time. Visit us online at www.istitutomondoitaliano.org. Un caffè, per favore. My first cup of coffee sets the tone for my entire day, and I get my coffee at La Prima Espresso. La Prima has been brewing Pittsburgh's best coffee for nearly 35 years. Try any of their in-house roasted varieties of beans from all over the world at home, or come and enjoy an espresso or a cappuccino at any of their locations, where their friendly baristas and familiar faces will make you feel at home. Because a trip to La Prima is like a trip to Italy, only closer to home. While the wait is finally over, welcome Bill and Massimo to the Italian Radio Hour. How are you today?
Thank you. We're fine and we're happy to be here.
Well, I'm actually very excited to have Massimo. Massimo is also a student of Italian at Sacred Heart. And so often after class, we might catch up on some Italian trends or food-related questions. But recently, he actually had to complete an assignment for his language arts class, and where they had to present a research topic of their choice. Massimo, can you share with our audience what you decided to write about?
I decided to write about my family business, Pennsylvania Macaroni, because it's a topic I like, and it's a topic I know a lot about already.
Mm-hmm. And obviously a topic that you wrote beautifully about it, and it's very informative. And for those of us who have been living in Pittsburgh for quite a few years or Pittsburgh natives, Pennsylvania Macaroni is one of the destinations where you want to stock up on all the finest ingredients to prepare your an Italian meal, but much more than that. But reading Massimo's papers, I actually came to learn more about the history of the family, which is quite fascinating. It goes back over 100 years ago. So that knowledge actually contributed a little more to how special the shopping experience could be at PenMac. And with that, I would like to start with Bill to tell us a little bit about the family, when who was who, because we might see some names repeated as a good tradition of carrying out in father's or grandfather's name. What part of Italy is the family originally from?
The family is originally from Trabia, Sicily, which is a small town outside of Palermo.
Mm-hmm. A beautiful, I think it might be close to the coastline. So some.
I believe so. I believe it's inland just a little bit. And my grandfather, Augustino, his brother, Michelino, and his oldest brother, Salvatore, came to the United States in the early 1900s.
And what type of business were they involved in Sicily before coming to the U.S.?
Well, the way I understand it is my great grandfather, which would be my dad and uncle's father,
Mhm.
was in exporting and packing of food products.
Okay. So, and do you know by chance if Pittsburgh was indeed their first destination, or did they go somewhere else and then eventually move to Pittsburgh?
The brothers came over and started an olive oil packaging, pasta producing warehouse in Sharpsburg, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, so that's a neighborhood that we talked about in a recent episode. I didn't know about that. That's pretty exciting. What happened to that pastificio, that pasta factory?
The way we understand it is there was a fire,
Mm-hmm.
and at that time, the brothers decided to relocate to the Strip District
Okay.
on Penn Avenue
Mm-hmm.
into the building that is 2012 Penn Avenue, which is the main building where they started in the Strip District.
Okay. Now, for people that might not be familiar, nor was I when I first came to Pittsburgh, what was the, what did the Strip District look like, and why is it called the Strip District?
The Strip District, as I remember as a child, was a start at 10 o'clock at night type of neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
There was rail cars, tractor trailers, many people loading and unloading. It was a dark place. There was a lot of soot in the city. I remember as a child, everybody was working very hard.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a terminal called, the terminal building, the Smallman Street Terminal, is where the majority of the produce companies were located. They would bring their product in by rail car, by tractor trailer. Shoppers, grocers would come down there to get their goods. And I lost my train of thought there.
Well, that was also, some of one of the, let's say, gastronomic experience of Pittsburgh is a permane sandwich, which indeed was created for those who are not local, indeed to cater to the truck drivers and anyone that needed to have a very nutritious, let's call it, meal in one go. And again, for those who don't live here, a permane sandwich, and actually primantis, if we wanted to read it the Italian way, consisted of bread, and then you had your meats, you might have your French fries, your coleslaw, and so forth. So it was indeed the neighborhood where all the business, so to speak, was passing by. The trucks were getting loaded, and so forth.
The gentleman that owned Primanti's, he had designed his business to give the truck drivers and the night workers a full rounded meal.
Mm-hmm.
That's how the sandwich became to be known as the fries, the coleslaw, the meat, the vegetables, tomato, lettuce, everything was on one sandwich, which made it easy for them. And then the business was acquired by Jim Petrino's sometime after.
Yes, so as I said, so it gives us the idea that all the commerce was happening in that part of the city. Massimo, you wrote a little bit about let me see, Augustino and also his wife back in the day. Do you remember how much they were earning and how their language skills when they first came to the US?
Well, my great grandfather Augustino, he was from Italy. He didn't really know English very well, so he had to practice it on a day-to-day basis. His wife was from the US, but she was also of Sicilian descent.
Mm-hmm. So she had the advantage of the language.
Angelina. Her name was Angelina. And her family, they owned a produce store in New York.
Okay.
The Buffalo area.
Okay. So now, now so many generations later, 4 generations later, so the table is reversed. Augustino came and to the US. I had to learn English. Now you have the ability to master the language that he brought with him, and unfortunately, as I hear from a lot of families, was actually the first element of Italianness that was lost in the process of integration and fitting in. So hopefully that exploration of the language. Also, you recently did a project where even though your family comes from Sicily, you were assigned to explore a different region. Massimo, tell us a little bit about the project and how you and your classmates divided who was looking into what.
Well, we divided it so like my other three partners did landscapes, like known features about it, buildings, etc. I did the food part.
Mm-hmm.
And I came to realize a lot of food that I didn't know about, it was a lot of food I didn't know about, came from Lombardia.
Mm-hmm. And so now you got exposed to the north and the south, maybe that you were familiar with, and there is the whole middle part that will be worth exploring. And just not to commit your parents to a trip to Italy, but we'll put it out there as a graduation gift at some point in your future academic career. Let's go back to, even because the first-hand experience of the town where the family originated from, and the many other beautiful sites in Italy will really enrich what I perceive you, Massimo, having already a strong Italian pride that you carry, and the fact that you have also researched your family history in addition to what could have been the stories that you heard at the dinner table, gives you some sort of a stable feet. That's what I personally perceive when people know where they came from and where the family came from. They have a stronger sense of identity of their own self. But now let's go back to like 100 years ago. So we had Augustino and family. The wife had there was a produce business in New York, and then the first location in the strip district. Now, was the at the beginning Pennsylvania Macaroni, was it catering to the consumers, or was it more of a wholesale type of business?
Well, Pennsylvania Macaroni, once it moved over to Penn Avenue in the Strip District, would cater to the small mom and pop grocery stores.
Mm-hmm.
There was a lot on Larimer Avenue. There was a lot in Brookline,
Mm-hmm.
Pennsylvania. And there was a need to feed the people that were immigrating to the country. Mm-hmm. And a lot of those people were settled in the uptown area of Pittsburgh, in the Hill District, and they supplied the groceries. We delivered to grocery stores. They would have a lot of pickups. We did have a small retail store that
Mm-hmm.
we utilized, and people could buy things in bulk, mm-hmm. families. And in the early days, families bought in bulk units of 12, things like that, because mm-hmm. they had a lot of family members, and they would split up goods between cousins, uncles, aunts, and things like that. Mm-hmm. And we, as the next generation came in, which my dad, Salvatore, my uncle Robert, and my uncle Anthony, Tony, Uncle Bob, Uncle Sal, mm-hmm. They started to sell to restaurants, mm-hmm. and pizzerias and hotels and things like that. As the product choices spread, we grew that end of the business a lot. So we were doing grocery business, mm-hmm. and food service business.
Okay, wonderful. So you mentioned some of the names. So just to give a little genealogy of the again of the family, and correct me if I'm mistaken. So we had the three brothers, the Augustino, Salvatore, and Michelino. Agostino had three children, Salvatore, Bob, and Tony. Okay.
He had four children. I had three aunts too.
Okay.
There was three boys and three.
Okay.
That doesn't include that.
Of course.
And then, but Salvatore, Agostino passed away when Salvatore was pretty young. He was actually going to Central Catholic, right? So
I believe he had just graduated Central Catholic, and he was recruited by his mom, come down and run the business with her full time.
Okay. And then he was married to Sally, and here we have indeed yourself, Ricky, Ronnie, David, Judy, and Rob.
Yes, Rob unfortunately passed away in 2018. He was the oldest brother of the family.
So was Salvatore still kind of overseeing, I'm sure the children got involved in the business, the ones that wanted to. So anyone coming to Pennsylvania Macaroni in I don't know, in the 90s, would they see Salvatore still kind of roaming through the aisles of the store?
Absolutely. My dad and my Uncle Bob were at the store on a daily basis. Until my father passed away in 2000, and my Uncle Bob would have a presence at the store and at our food service warehouse in Green Tree until the time of his passing.
Okay, wonderful. So from what I've read, there was indeed a great sense of respect towards Salvatore and your entire family, because he was not one that was sparing himself from doing any work. My sense from reading about him and about also the rest of the family is that the two main core values, family first, and then a very strong sense of family, and also an extremely impeccable work of ethic.
My father worked very hard. My father built relationships not only with his children and his wife, but his customers were at the top of his list. His customers were treated like family. If they needed help, he helped them. If they needed help, or if he needed help, they helped him. It was a relationship between businessman and customer that both would prosper. It was always it was always an agreement that everyone has to make money. Everyone has to survive together. Without each other, we would not survive.
Massimo, you didn't have the fortune to meet your grandfather, because he passed away when you were not in the plan yet, I think. But the way that you also speak about your father, and also you also have some part-time job. I don't know if it is during the summer or also during the year. So it looks like history is repeating itself, right? Again, wanted to be already productive in society or in your family. Not that you have to provide for your family, but tell us a little bit about that. And I know that your father is next to you, but how would you describe also his work ethic and totally put on the spot, Massimo.
Well, yeah, I do have a part-time job at my mother's pizzeria. I work there during like Christmas break, summer break. Almost every day I'm off, I'm down there. And I used to make hoagies and pizza, but I eventually moved to the register because I was too slow for the kitchen. And yeah, my father's work
slow in the
ethic,
kitchen, but fast with money, right?
and then I would say my father's work ethic, I really haven't seen him work in a long time, because last time I seen him work was 5 years ago.
5 years ago for us is nothing, but for how old are you, Massimo?
I'm 14, so I was 9
So
years
it's one
old.
third of his life, right?
And he mostly worked up at the Green Tree at the wholesale
Mhm.
division. I never really went up there, and he was only at the store a weekend a month.
Mhm.
And so I would go with him, but I was really young, so I really didn't know what was going on.
So Bill, how does it feel to obviously be associated with the family that has created so much for in Pittsburgh, not only just for the Italian community. I mean, a trip to PenMac is something that it's part of people's daily routines, but also when out-of-towners come, it's a must. So what do you think it makes it so so special? I can give you my take afterwards, but how does it feel to be part of something that was started from scratch 100 some years ago and is still standing strong?
It's really an honor, and it's very humbling, because the way we were raised was we go to work, we satisfy our customers, we service our customers, we interact on a daily basis. And to us, it wasn't a monumental thing that we were doing. We were taught, we go to work, we bring home our loaf of bread, and we treat everyone with respect. So to me, growing up, I really didn't think of Pennsylvania macaroni as this really important thing until I got older and I heard how people, they take their annual trip, biannual trip, twice a month. They bring their children, they bring their grandfather, their grandmother, their grandkids. And it is very, very important to the Italian community to enjoy Pennsylvania macaroni. I knew people that would bring their children, and I knew one man in particular that would speak to his children in Italian, and his wife would speak to his children in English. And I watched these kids grow up into wonderful people. And I watched a person one day, he was in a nursing home, and his one wish was he wanted to go to Pennsylvania macaroni. And unfortunately, fortunately for him, he got his wish. Unfortunately, he passed away in the building.
No, well.
And it was just a wonderful thing. And then I started to realize how important the company is for the Italian community and chefs and cooks and foodie people.
It's a point of reference, but also I don't want to say a point of reflection. But it is indeed the place when you walk in with, especially the multi-generation experience. People might reflect or might share, because when I was your age, there were, this was happening. And so they share the memories and they pass it on. And I want to share actually a couple of cute pictures. I think they're cute. But you had a very special guest coming to visit PenMac. That was La Befana on January the 6th. She knew that PenMac was indeed the place where she would indeed, get all her supplies. And it was actually hysterical. So here, obviously exploring the counters. But here it is. This is what I actually like the best. And it ties into the point you were just making. So obviously it is me, but it is something that I do every year and see what is the reaction of people dressing up as the Befana. So this gentleman is kind of looking at me like, and who is this lady who walks in with her broom? So I introduced myself as the Befana. And the gentleman, I almost had tears in his eyes because He was first generation Italian, and he reverted immediately to Italian. And he said, "You don't know how long it's been since I saw a Befana." And here is, all of a sudden, from I don't know how old the gentleman was, but all of a sudden he felt like he was 6 years old. And I think places like this connect the multi-generations and the different experiences that immigrants or professional living overseas, because that's kind of the new naming convention, have of a place that makes them feel at home. In some of the routines, they're very European. The fact of getting the cheese by the weight freshly, every day or every so often. Seeing brands, familiar brands of whether it's pasta or obviously the aisle of the Mulino Bianco cookies or anything. So that's also that's what I think makes an experience at PenMac so special for everyone. They have written about the cheese counter quite a bit, I think, in the past, with hundreds of cheese from all over the world. Is that that is kind of a big drawing part of also coming to PenMac, right? People standing in line.
We have an enormous cheese selection that was sort of my brother David's baby. And he really enjoyed cheeses, and he was the one that really started to expand it. In the early days, we had the Parmigiano Reggiano, the Locatelli Romano, we had Caciocavallo, we had Scamorza, we had provolone with butter in the middle. We had the basic things, the salamis, the supersatas and things. But now we have, I can't even count how many cheeses we have. And the people come to see what the new cheeses are.
Yes.
Okay, Matt.
Yeah, and they have the chance to also try a little bit, so that before they commit to the purchase. And there were two names that when I was doing some research came about, and maybe you might have recollection of both, or maybe just one of the two ladies, Ursula Giannotti and Carol Pascuzzi.
Ursula, from the time I was little, Ursula was a staple at Pennsylvania Macaroni. She did have a store on Larimer Avenue. And when she closed her store, she came to work at Pennsylvania Macaroni.
Okay.
Ursula had a following of customers, and like hairdressers have people that follow them. People would come in, and I'd be working at the cheese counter with my brother and Ursula, and people wouldn't let us wait on them. They wanted Ursula to swing that knife. I don't know if she kept her thumb on the scale, but and yeah, that was a tremendous thing. And she was very close to Carol and Nick Pascuzzi. Carol and Nick Pascuzzi were employees of ours for a very, very long time. Carol would refer to everyone as Dearheart, and Nick was one of the best employees ever. Nick just got the cheese, got the meat. He did what he had to do, and he went home. But Carol and Nick are now in Oklahoma. I believe Carol may be working at a cheese shop out there, but they were both just wonderful, wonderful people for the business and the community.
Okay, so before we closing up, one question for both of you. Let's start with you, Bill, so that Massimo can have 30 seconds extra to think about. What does Italian mean to you? Because now we are so many generations apart. And have you done anything specific, Bill, to maintain the culture of some of the values? And Massimo, what are you going to do with being Italian?
We do the holiday, the seven fishes, during Christmas. Our families get together for Easter. We do Thanksgiving. My father had taught me how to make cannoli, Sicilian cannoli, when I was little. I dreaded the Christmas morning having to get up and cut up cherries, pineapple, and chocolate. But today, that's one of the best things I remember. I make the cannolis for the holiday. I make the best cannoli for the holiday.
Massimo, you know what, how you can, I don't want to say bribe your Italian teacher, but you know how to get into her grace after the school year is over. A little tray of your dad's cannoli.
We'll make that happen for you.
So you were saying that the traditions that, again, when you were younger, maybe you dreaded, and now it's what have enriched.
Yes, yes. You know, growing up, I think there was a lot of discrimination towards the Italians coming up. And my dad, he married my mom, which was the most wonderful person in the world, and she was Irish. And we didn't have as many of the traditions. We kept the basic traditions, and it's just so many wonderful memories of people coming into the store, bringing food home, cooking and eating. I was a very finicky eater. I did not eat Italian food till I was over 20 years old.
Oh. Wonderful. So Massimo, so how, what does it mean to you? What does it mean for you to be Italian? And what aspects of your Italianness do you think you would want to cultivate, continuing your progression in life?
Well, I, as you mentioned before, I do have a lot of Italian pride, and most of that comes from my mother. My mother comes from she's Calabrese, her family. And yeah, she gave me a lot of I have a lot of knowledge of Italian traditions, not only from my dad, but also my mother. Like two different parts of Italy. It's nice to know two different traditions.
And so do you think a trip to Italy is at some point going to be due?
I've been trying to get my dad to do that for 6 years now.
Yeah, we have a plan to get him over there and let him see. We want to go to Sicily, to Trabia. We want to go to Calabria, and we want to enjoy the country.
Wonderful. So unfortunately, our conversation our hour is up. Il Big Ben ha detto stop. It's time for us to say arrivederci e alla prossima. We want to thank you for tuning into the program. If you have any questions or comments, or if you have any topics you would like us to address, please contact us at theitalianradiohour@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. And remember, if you or any of your family and friends have missed a prior episode or would like to listen to this episode again, please visit our website at www.istitutomondoitaliano.org and click on the Italian Radio Hour tab. You can also subscribe to the Italian Radio Hour on YouTube or where you catch your favorite podcasts. I would like to thank our guests, Bill and Massimo Sunseri, our sponsors, Istituto Mondo Italiano, La Prima Espresso, and La Boara for the music. Until next time, alla prossima. Ciao, ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao.